Hello, welcome to Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, and I can't tell you how excited I am to get danky. The taste of moss, the flavor of fungus, the absolute licking of a sweaty wall is exactly what we're about to do as we deep dive on the Gloomspite Gitz faction focus, which Games Workshop have previewed today. We have got some exciting new war scrolls to look at, and I cannot wait to just experience the flavor. If you're new to Age of Sigmar and Gloomspite Gitz seem to be something you want to play, let me give you a quick little bit of information about who the Gloomspite Gitz are. They are goblins, trolls, spiders, and all manner of mushroom-based manifestations who live in the dank swamps. The most important bit about them, in my personal opinion, is that they love collecting bottles, which is very cool. And they travel around the mortal realms, building themselves up little empires under their leader, Scragrot the Loon King, with the attempt to capture the moon, which they call the Bad Moon. Some of them think, the Spiderfang guys think it's a spider egg ready to hatch. The Grots themselves think it's a particularly tasty piece of cheese, which is quite exciting. So with that said, and with all that information, we've effectively got 4 different armies in here. 4 different armies: spiders, trolls, goblins, squigs, all in here. It's going to be very exciting to see what rules they get. We'll start out with their titular ability and battle traits. If you are new to Age of Sigmar and you don't know how it works, when you get an army and you decide to play an army, you have faction abilities which are called battle traits. These apply to your entire army. After this, there's also something called battle formations. You also normally will get a piece of faction terrain, and sometimes you get endless spells. The faction terrain that you get is free, and so when you turn up, you get your battle traits for free, you get your piece of terrain that you can put on the board for free. So those are things that you're going to have to get when you're playing Gloomspite Gitz. We'll look at the piece of terrain in a minute, but first we'll look at the battle traits for the Gitz. And it's all to do with their moon, the story of the moon in their army. The Bad Moon's orbit describes how this works. At the start of the first battle round, and at the start of every battle round after, you'll decide, at the first battle round, you decide which table quarter the moon will be in. And then the light of the moon will affect every unit wholly within that table quarter. At the start of each new battle round, you roll a dice, and on a 4+, it will move forward. And then if it's in the center, it will affect the entire board. If it moves in the other table quarter, it will affect that table quarter. And if it moves for a final time, it will move off the board. The fickleness of the moon. And that is what it does. If a unit is affected by the moon, it benefits from the passive Under the Light of the Bad Moon. So if they are affected by the Bad Moon, then different units will get different effects, which is pretty fun. So the first effect is going to affect is Frothing Zealots, and it'll affect non-squig Moon Clan units. This allows you to add +3 to their control score. Now, your control score is different to your control characteristic. If you have 10 models that have a control characteristic of 1, then that means that your control score would equal 10. So this means that you add +3 to the total, as opposed to +3 per model. The next ability, Lunar Squigs, affects squig units and allows you to re-roll the random characteristic for its move characteristic. We're about to look at squig herds. They move d6 +3 inches, and that means you're going to be able to re-roll it. Moonlight Hide, which is very good, affects Troggoth units, and it adds +1 to the save rolls for all of those guys. And that is, in my opinion, very good. And finally, Spiderfang Venom affects Spiderfang units. Keywords, by the way, for units are located at the bottom of a war scroll. I'll showcase those in a bit. And that means, so for Spiderfang units, that you are going to do mortal damage, or do critical hits, on a hit roll of a 5. So if you are not new to Age of Sigmar, you'll notice that these are very similar, if not identical, to everything you've seen in Age of Sigmar 3. Next up, we've got battle formations. Games Workshop have announced for each one of the armies that they're releasing, there'll be 4 battle formations at release in the indexes, which will be coming up with Age of Sigmar 4. The first one is the Squigalanche, and this is the ability you get is Bouncing Fury, where each time a friendly squig unit charges, you add 1 to the attack's characteristic if it's fang-filled gobs, massive fang-filled gobs, or huge fang-filled gobs, referencing the different sized squigs that you potentially can use. And this is quite good, especially as you kind of want to generate a lot of attacks from your squig units. They've also said that there's going to be a battle formation for Spiderfang Riders, Trog herds, and also loads of Moonclan grots, or just the goblins, which is very similar to how it works in Age of Sigmar 3 already. Like I've said, it's kind of like there are 4 different armies. So Maybe in the far future, something I personally would be very excited about is I'd love to see these armies maybe separated out, or at least get some sort of, narrative and, rules-based addition to them, because I'd like to know if there are different troll subfactions, different squig subfactions, different spider subfactions. I think that's quite fun, but I understand why they probably won't. Okay, so if you are building an army list, one of the things that you're going to do is you are going to choose a spell lore for your army, which is fun. Now, each army can do this, and you're also going to get a manifestation lore as well, which means your endless spells, which means if you're playing as a Gloomspite Gitz, you're going to have to make sure you go pick up those endless spells. You'll note these down on your army list, so you'll have both a spell lore that you've chosen for your army and also a manifestation lore. When you choose a spell lore, all the wizards in your army will be able to cast a spell from that spell lore. They will not be able to cast multiple versions of that spell unless it has the unlimited keyword. So each wizard has access to all of the spells and can choose whichever one they want. But unless it has an unlimited keyword, you won't be able to cast it more than once per hero phase. And this is actually incredibly cool for a couple of reasons. Number one, the spell that we're looking at here, which is cast on the 7, Sneaky Distraction, is an unlimited spell. How good is that? So you're going to be able to cast this multiple times. It's cast on a 7, and what it does, all enemy units within 12 inches of this, wholly within 12 inches of the person who's cast it, are going to be -1 to hit. So it's like a big distracting bubble, and because you can cast it with multiple casters, you can effectively have these silos of -1 to hit in the Gloomspite Gitz army, which I personally think is quite cool. That's quite fun. And very flavorful, Sneaky Distraction. Can't wait to see what more spells there are. Now we're going to start looking at different units. Also, just shout out to the name of the spell lore that you get to choose. When someone says, what spell are you playing? What spell lore have you got? Be like, I've just got the lore of the Clammy Dank. And they'll be like, the Clammy Dank? Lovely. Loads of flavor. Okay, the unit focus. First up, we're going to look at the leader of the Gloomspite Gitz themselves, Skragrott, the Loon King. He has a very famous stick, the moon on a stick, a crown, and many other items, which I'm sure will get some big flavorful rules. Okay, so let's start out with his once per battle reaction. You declared the Bad Moon's Orbit ability. This is when you're going to decide if a wizard is going to be able, if the moon is going to move from the middle it's just going to move basically from one table quarter to either the middle or the middle to the table quarter. And the effect is, when you decide that you're going to move this, the Bad Moon will stay or move to a location you want. So if you want to move it into the middle, or if you want it to stay in the middle, then Skragrott's going to be able to control that. And seeing as that is such an incredible buff piece for your trolls in your army, then that is going to be very, very effective and something you're going to want to use a lot. We'll quickly talk about the profile for Skragrott. He's got 6 health with a 6-up save, and that's not that defensive, but thankfully he does have a 4-up ward save, so hopefully he'll be able to tank a lot, and thanks to many of the special rules, he's probably untargetable by shooting another ranged weapon, so you're going to have to get into combat with him, and to get into combat with him, you're going to probably have to go past loads of big trolls and troggoths. He's also a wizard, which is fun, and he's a 2-cast wizard, meaning he can cast 2 spells. And he's unique, which means you can only take one version of him. He's also got the War Master keyword, which as of yet we don't know what it means, but we're pretty certain that means you're going to be able to have more units in your regiment when you build regiments, which is how you build your army list. You pick a hero to lead a regiment, and normally you can have 3 units in that regiment. If it's your general, you can have 4 units, and we feel like War Master might unlock more than that. That's what we're thinking. Okay, let's talk about the other abilities that he has. Oh, also, I guess I should mention that he's got a combat profile, but when he's so unsurvivable, I probably wouldn't put him into combat with only 4 attacks, Rend 1 doing damage D3, but at the right moment, maybe he could shank a fool, which is incredibly goblin-like. His other ability is when you declare a redeploy ability, you can do a reaction. And thanks to the Babbling Wand, if a Moonclan unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit decides it's going to redeploy, instead of just rolling a pesky 1, 2, or 3, he can always guarantee a 4, which is deeply flavorful, that he is pretty medium at making units redeploy. He's also got a spell called Fangs of the Bad Moon, which is incredibly good, which is cast on a 7 and is done in your hero phase. It's cast on a 7, like I say, and it's got a range of 18 inches, which is pretty long, although smaller than it currently is. And what you do is you roll a number of d6 equal to the casting roll. So if I cast it on a 10, then I'll roll 10 dice. And for every 3+, the unit that I'm targeting will take 1 mortal damage, which is nutty. So the better you roll, the better he is, which is pretty fun. I am super excited to know what your reactions are and all of your thoughts are in the comments below about all of these units. Are you a current Gloomspite Gitz player? Do you like how this War Scroll plays? What are your thoughts? Do you think it's got like a nice streamline into it? Do you think it's got a lot of flavor? What do you think? I'm super excited to know. And if you are someone who's looking to get to Age of Sigmar, how do you feel about it anyway? Okay, so that's Skragrot. And then after Skragrot, we've got the Gobberpalooza. Now, these guys are super famous if you're an Age of Sigmar fan because the models are stunning. One of the best, if not the best, set of models. We have, in the Cities of Sigmar, got a new kind of command group as well, which you started calling the Human Palooza. But we love a Palooza in this family, and the Gobberpalooza is pretty interesting. It's 5 models, each of one who's got a unique story and backstory, full of interesting flavor and content, which is fun. Each one of those 5 models has got 3 health with a 6-up save, and thanks to the hallucinogenic fungus brews, you get a 4-up ward save on the unit in the first battle round, a 5-up ward save in the second battle round, and a 6-up ward save in the third battle round. So they get kind of a diminishing return ward save. So that's 15 wounds with a 6-up save and a 4-up ward save battle round 1. So a nice screening unit, which is what I think of when I think of the Gobberpalooza. Each one of them has got an attack, which is 1 attack that hits on a 4, wounds on a 4, and is round 1 damage D3. So I don't really think of them as like a frontline combat unit, but maybe. One of them is called Spiker, which is fun. Okay. They also have one ability called the Gobberpalooza No-Watts, which is done in your hero phase. What you do is you roll a dice. On a 3-up, you're able to use this ability. If you haven't rolled a 3-up, then, start charging, because that's what you're going to need to do. And if you do roll a 3-up, you get to choose from 3 different abilities. The first one, the Glare Face Dance, allows you to pick a friendly Gloomspite Gitz unit within range and add one to run and charge rolls until the start of your next turn. If you choose Nasty Poisons, you're going to pick a friendly Gloomspite Gitz unit, and you add one to the rend characteristic of that unit's weapons until the start of the next turn. What's quite nice is that it doesn't say combat, it just says the rend characteristic of unit's weapons, so maybe some shooters, which would be fun. And finally, we've got Mesmerize, which is very nice, where you pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches until the start of your next turn. That unit cannot use commands. Do you hear me? Cannot use them, which is pretty fun, and we love that. So that's going to be very effective for stopping some of those command abilities from being used. Gobberpalooza, pretty interesting. Easily one of the most characterful and insanely creative miniature sets we've seen in a long time. How do you feel about the rules? Are you likely to use them? How do you feel about the 3-up ability not working, 2/3 of the time? So, that big... Are you gonna risk it and go for that big 3+ to get +1 rend, or are you thinking that's probably a lot of points to risk for a 3-up? Who knows? Let me know what you think. Next up, we're going to look at the Squig Herd, which is super popular. Squig Herd, when you buy as a box, comes with 10 squigs and 2 Squig Herders, so 10 and 2, which means when you do buff them up, you're going to get them up to 20, when you reinforce them, and you can only reinforce a unit where you take a unit that is its normal unit size, let's say unit of 10, and you can make it into a unit of 20. You can do that once. You can't, in Age of Sigmar 3 you used to be able to do it twice, but now you can't do it more than once, although you can do it multiple times across your army, which is cool. So this does mean you could make a massive unit of squigs, is what I'm trying to say. 20 squigs, 4 herders. But the first unit we're going to talk about is your standard box, which is 10 squigs, 2 herders. Each squig has got 1 health and a 6-up save, and they move d6 plus 3 inches. So they're not that survivable, and pretty much anything is going to kill them. However, they do have the ability called herding squigs, which is quite fun, where in your hero phase, you can roll a dice for each squig herder in this unit. For each 2+, you can return D3 slain cave squigs. However, if you roll a 1, the squig herder gets eaten and dies. But don't forget, thanks to the rally command ability, you will be able to also then rally back your own squig herders, which is kind of fun. I love that as well. So you are going to be able to return effectively 2d3, and if you did reinforce the unit, you could be able to reinforce 4d3 squigs into a unit, which is quite nice, especially when those guys do so much damage. Let's talk about that, shall we? Their attack profile is 3 attacks per squig, hitting on a 4, wounding on a 3, rend 1, damage 1. And it's also a companion. What this means is that normal abilities aren't going to be able to... abilities that change the attack characteristic or that change the attack line aren't going to be able to affect them. However, all-out attack, which is +1 to hit, has been called out on the command ability as being able to use. So you are going to be able to use them. This means from our lowly unit of 10 squig herd, we're going to be able to get 30 attacks. And thanks to, as we saw, the battle formation where they get +1 attack on the jaws on where they charge, that's going to be 40 attacks. Potentially hitting on 3s, win on 3s. And thanks to the Gobblepalooza, you can go from rend 1 to rend 2. Incredible stuff. If you reinforce this unit, we're going to have 20 squigs doing 80 attacks. Hitting on 3s, win on 3s, rend 2, damage 1. All very spicy stuff. If you do end up, and if a unit is able to catch up with you and start murdering your squigs, don't worry about it, because you have an ability called Squigs Gone Wild, where every time a squig model is removed while it's within combat range, which is 3 inches, of a squig unit, on a 5+, you're going to inflict a mortal damage back. This obviously is going to work incredibly well if the unit doesn't get wiped out, and then you start using the herding squigs ability to keep bringing them back. So do some chopping, get eaten, do another couple of mortal damage, rally some back, put some herding squigs back in, do all sorts of crazy stuff. We love that. We absolutely love that. However, there has to be a downside to what is, as we know, such an electric war scroll, and that is its passive, Beast. Because of the Beast passive, the unit's control score is 1. I know what you're asking yourself, Rob, 1? That's pretty good if I've got 20 squigs. No, it's not 20 times 1. It's just totally 1. That's it. So they're not built for holding objectives. They're built for murder. Woof. Pretty spicy stuff for those guys. Now, the last thing that we are going to... And please do tell me what you think of these guys. And the last thing we're going to talk about is the Loon Shrine that you get as part of your army, the Bad Moon Loon Shrine. So this is what you're going to get in your army for free every time. It's got 14 health, and if you haven't been keeping up with the news, you are able to destroy faction terrain, also manifestations and then the spells in combat or with other attacks. So it's got 14 health and a 4-up save. So you are going to be able to, if you play against Gloomspite Gitz players, kill their Loon Shrine and make it so that they are not going to be able to use these abilities. So just watch out for that. The 2 abilities they have, first one, is Effigy of the Bad Moon. Friendly Gloomspite Gitz units under the light of the Bad Moon while they're wholly within 12 inches of this terrain feature, which means you get all of the buffs around the effigy, which is quite good because it makes a nice castle that you can fight near if you need to, especially as other people are going to be coming over to try to punch your Loon Shrine to death. And then, in a very unique, flavorful take, we have the once per turn command ability that's done at the end of your turn called the Moon Clan Layers, which allows you to pick a non-hero, non-monster, and non-war machine Gloomspite unit that has been destroyed by the target, to be the target of this ability. And you set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit, rounding up, holding in 12 inches of this terrain feature, but more than 3 inches from all enemy units. And that's spicy because it's more than 3 inches, which means it's done at the end of your turn. If you are doing that at the end of a battle round and able to take a priority roll, you're then going to be able to maybe take a turn and do a very easy charge. Or if your opponent is going to go next, you can do a counter charge in their turn, which is very nice. Also means if you take a big unit of 6 rock guts and 3 get killed, you can bring 3 more back, which is very fun. And we like that as well. It can only be done once per turn for your army, which is very cool. And lastly, although it is a bit of the spearhead stuff and we haven't been looking at this, we did get the profile for the Rockgut Troggoths, and it looks like their health has gone up from 4 to 5 health, which we really love, and they've maintained their 5-up ward save. So as a unit, they're going to be very survivable. 3-up save, 5-up ward save, and with regeneration healing D3 feels very strong. I'd also like to shout out some other sneaky thing that we've just found out from the Bad Moon Loon Shrine. It says non-War Machine Gloomspite Gitz. Currently, I can't think of any War Machine Gloomspite Gitz, so maybe that's a little bit of a nod to some new releases that we're going to see. Maybe a Doom Diver, maybe a Rock Chucker, maybe a Bolt Thrower, who knows? Could be very fun to see what that looks like. Could I shout out the return of the squig shooter that they did from Forge World? That would be incredibly fun. And that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed having a quick chat about Gloomspite Gitz in Age of Sigmar 4. Still loads more information to come. When the entire book and all of this different stuff has released, we'll be making in-depth, informative videos, which we hope you enjoy. I want to thank everyone on the Wargamer Patreon. And if you do want to sign up to our Patreon to help support the show, then obviously do that. We've got Discord where we talk about Gitz and other armies, I guess, if you want, which would be fun. It'd be cool to see you there as well, and you can join up with that at the lowest tier. And please do like and subscribe and leave comments. Otherwise, there's no point me doing it, because it means no one's liked it, which sucks. Anyway, join me again soon for another flavorful look at Age of Sigmar 4. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being honest, Wargamers.